You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
Newsom is he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I am Jeff Waldorf, logical leftist here, and you're watching Logically Left. And boy, do we have just a, well, I'm not going to say good, right? Because it ain't nothing good right now. But we have some, quite a few stories here. We have a town hall backlash against another Republican. I know one of them that's brave enough to have actually went to a town hall, unlike most of the other Republicans. It's about the only amount of credit you can give this person for actually showing up, unlike the other cowards. And boy, did he get an earful. We have a Trump voting independent, apparently, a Latino who is not too happy with his vote. Getting the day that he voted for. I'll give you the details on that. We have, of course, the jobs report, or I should say the lack of jobs report. Disaster. Economic disaster. So that's coming up. We'll get the details on that. And then, of course, a report about the Epstein stuff continues to come out. More and more of it. This time a report about Epstein and Mar-a-Lago stuff there. And, of course, that happens to coincide with new reports that Trump's apparently moving Ghislaine Maxwell to a different place. Look, I'm not saying that she's going to get a pardon, but I think she's going to get a pardon. Oh, boy. So that is just absolutely disastrous stuff here going on today. So welcome to the show. Welcome to America in 2025. All disastrous stuff. All right. Before I dive into the stories, of course, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Need your help to get the word out. So, and that's pretty much the best thing that you can do right there in order to help me do that. Like and share in the different social media, that the platforms. Thank you, platforms that I am on. Okay, it's Friday. It's been a hell of a week, so let's do it. Remember when right meant the opposite of wrong? Yeah, no kidding. All right. Anyway, let's do it. Let's start out with the town hall. Oh boy. Okay. A town hall in Wisconsin did not go very well for Republican Representative Brian Style.
Why are they wearing masks and why are they unidentified?
We'll probably agree to disagree on some of my answer here, but what I view is the moral hazard created by the Biden administration by allowing the U.S.-Mexico border to remain insecure. And so, it's completely fine that we disagree. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing on the topic. President Biden had a different view than I did on the importance of securing the U.S.-Mexico border. But as millions of illegal immigrants came into the United States and there was a lack of action by the federal government, you're now seeing that action take place with the removal particularly of individuals who are in the country illegally.
I am so disappointed. I am so disappointed in how you represent us as the citizen of Walworth County. Southeast Wisconsin has not been represented by you. President Trump seems to run Southeast Wisconsin through you. And all I have to ask is I will be out there working hard if you choose to run for any office.
I don't think you're the right fit for us anymore. I just think it's time to go. You just don't relate to most of us anymore, and you got to know when to step down. I think it's time.
Oh, damn. Okay. Look, before I get into more of the criticism of Mr. Style, I do want to address the ICE stuff, okay? The moral hazard of the Biden administration, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that was all BS, okay? No, Joe Biden did not allow millions of illegal immigrants to flood over the border. That's a lie. This guy's lying, okay? Using, Trump administration talking points. None of that's true. None of that's true. Biden actually deported more people. Okay. Yes, Biden deported more people. He was tough on immigration, but he actually deported more criminals. Whereas the Trump regime, they're just deporting anybody. Okay. They're just, you got ICE rolling around all, basically all Gestapo-like. All right. And just, getting anybody who looks Hispanic. That's really it. Okay, that's the reality of the situation. But look, the response here is why Republicans were warned not to do town halls. I remember that because earlier this year, they were doing town halls and they were facing some pretty hostile crowds. In fact, a lot of them started saying, the agitators, Democrat agitators paying people to be in the crowds. Okay, yeah, so you're saying that Democrats are paying people to show up in BFE, Iowa, okay, in the middle of nowhere to yell at Republicans. What planet are you on? What planet are you on? Because it ain't Earth. Okay, it's nowhere near Earth. Okay, nowhere near reality. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, this is exactly the reaction that they're not exactly in favor of. Okay, in fact, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel noted that before that town hall even started, there was a group of 50 demonstrators that had gathered outside of the venue, which was a high school, to protest Styles' vote for Trump's big nasty bill, which they said slashed Medicaid and food assistance, which is true. I mean, they did massive deep cuts to Medicaid and to the food stamp program, also that they could, fund tax cuts for rich people. That's what's going on here. Wisconsin health officials previously estimated that the legislation could cause tens of thousands of Wisconsinites to lose their Medicaid coverage. Remember, these are people who work, okay? There are people who work that do not make enough to be able to buy health insurance, but they work, so they go and they get on Medicaid, and these cuts will absolutely devastate these people. That's the reality, okay? Now, that said, does this guy care? Apparently not. Apparently not. No. What he only cares about, and this is one of the big problems with the Republican Party of today, he only cares about not angering Donald Trump because they are a cult of personality. They have built that around him, and you've got a lot of people that are very, very wary of angering the man-child because he has that cult. Now, the thing is, there is no, and this is what I don't like, right? You still have pundits out there that are like, oh, MAGA Republicans and normal Republicans. No, they're all MAGA. That's who the Republican Party is now. Okay? They are a cult. Period. That said, they're still less than a third of the country, and you know what? They are shrinking fast. Turns out, nowadays, according to new polling, more people are now affiliating with the Democratic Party than before, whereas Republicans are losing people affiliating with the Republican Party. Now, the amazing thing about this, right, is that it's happening at a time where the Democrats are also really unpopular. Look, the Republicans are unpopular. Donald Trump's really unpopular. But so are the Democrats. It's a pox on both your houses. Okay? And of course, there are reasons, right? People do not trust the Democrats can handle the country's top issues. In fact, the Democratic Party's 34% approved favorable rating is the lowest Gallup has measured for the group in its trend dating back to 1992. The prior low was 36% in November of 2014. I remember that time. I was doing the show at the time. And this is when they got, quote unquote, shellacked in the midterms. Okay? They lost the majority in the Senate in the midterm, which gave the Republican Party control of both houses of Congress. And they immediately went to work blocking everything. Okay? Oh, and look, they were blocking everything before, to be fair, but they were doing even more blocking. Okay, the most amount of tremendous blocking. The best blocking. All right, so, but, okay, what does that mean? Okay, affiliation, and how is that possible, right? Well, for one, we got to note that the number of left-leaning independents has actually increased by about 4%. So that's why. They're not identifying as Democrats, per se. And there are reasons for that. A few different reasons. For one, you're not going to have these independents that are going to identify as Democrats because right now you have a lot of people that are looking at the Democrats and being like, what the hell are you doing for us? Okay? Look, the Democratic base and independents are not happy. They're pissed off at their politicians for refusing to put up any sort of meaningful resistance to Donald Trump. They haven't done anything. Okay? They've sent strongly worded letters, which Trump will use for toilet paper. Okay? That's really it. He does not care.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
You know why? Because of all the strongly worded letters that Trump is shoving in the toilet. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn. And so, with that resistance going on, people are looking at the Democrats and saying, well, you guys are weak. You guys are pathetic. Why am I going to throw in my lot with you? And then, of course, you've got Republican messaging that's everywhere. They're all on the bro podcasts and all that. Now, the Democrats, they still won't leave their cable news bubble. I mean, they don't go on small podcasts. They don't go on YouTube channels. I'm just saying they don't. And that's because they're afraid of being asked tough questions by people like myself. Yeah. And so they're not getting out their message, but they don't even have a message. Unless you're somebody like Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani actually did have a message. He does have a message. And he says, I'm going to help average New Yorkers. I'm going to lower your grocery bills, you know. I'm going to help out. I'm going to make busing, you know, public transportation. I'm going to make that free. I'm going to help you with your rent. I'm going to freeze the rents. Okay, we're actually going to do things to help average people and not just rich people. And you know, the establishment can't seem to figure out how is Mamdani beating Cuomo? But it's Cuomo. It's Andrew Cuomo. He's the son of Mario Cuomo. It's a dynasty. You must vote for him. Blue no matter who. Blue no matter who. Except for Zohran Mamdani, because he's a socialist. I mean, they're just going after that guy, and it's ineffective. Because he's crushing them. He's crushing in the polls. And that's it. And so, look, they don't get out their message, and when they do, that message sucks. Okay, it's like, oh, you know, we're going to do very, very tightly means-tested programs that maybe will help a few people. Will marginally help you just a little bit if the Republicans let us. Oh, the Republicans didn't let us. Oh, the parliamentarian didn't let us do this. So I guess we can't do that. Whereas you've got Republicans that are stomping all over all of that. Over everyone to get their Project 2025 BS done. You have Trump that is ignoring about a third of all court decisions. That's it. That's what he's just ignoring decisions that he doesn't like. So that's the other thing, right? The Democratic establishment won't fight, and they back extremely unpopular people. And the reason they do that is because they're paid to lose. They're paid by their donors to lose, the owner donors. That's the big problem. And look, the Democratic establishment constantly kicks progressives in the teeth. And yet, they're wondering, oh, why do we keep losing to these a-holes, to these crazy people? I mean, we keep pointing out, oh, man, these guys are crazy. Oh, wow, they suck. I mean, oh, they're nuts. Don't vote for me. Okay, but what are you going to do for us? And Republicans, they'll lie about everything. They already do lie about it. Trump lied about lowering your cost of groceries, and he didn't. So there it is. Okay? Look, my point is, Democrats are unpopular for those reasons. But Republicans are also really unpopular. Why? Because their policies are terrible. Their policies don't help anyone except for the rich. Look, at the end of the day, people like progressive policy. Yet you have Democrats that continue to push back against progressive policies. And they continue to try to appeal to Republican voters. And it never works. It never works. And, you know, while people hate their Republican policies, guess what? They just keep winning because their messaging is better. And the fact that Democrats are weak and feckless. And that's why they haven't been able to take advantage of the fact that the majority of people right now are just not on board with Republicans. How many more of these town halls do we have to see play out the same way before Democratic politicians finally get up off their asses and start trying to stand for something other than supporting, you know, Republican immigration policy, anti-trans rhetoric, as we saw with, unfortunately, with Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg. I mean, and maybe they should actually try to copy the people who are doing well and standing for something like Mamdani. Look, I think that unless Democratic leadership, the same leadership that cost us 2 elections against this clown, either they step down or they get forced out, I think nothing will change. And Republicans will continue winning because despite all of this, they still have the messaging and they still have their cultish, slavish followers. And that's something, obviously, that the Democrats do not have. Okay. Moving on here. A Trump voting Latino is furious after getting the day he voted for. Now, Jorge, no last name, lives in Florida, and he had happily cast his vote in 2024 for the mass deportation guy. Yeah. And apparently he is no longer thrilled because the leopards came for his face. Oh no! Oh no! How could that happen?
Oh no!
He said this, quote, rather than putting American values and American lives first, Trump would rather focus on international issues, which isn't really what he promised. His campaign was more or less about helping the economy, helping the working class, and really helping out when it comes to taxes. Okay? And none of that, of course, happened. But really, what got his goat was the fact that he was recently pulled over and asked for his papers. Yes, that's right. Show me your papers. Show me your papers. That's what's going on now. He said, quote, I'm an American who now has to be afraid. It's disappointing. He thinks he can just take everyone. Well, he can, unfortunately. Not legally, of course, but he's doing it anyway. Why? Because of your vote. You built this. You gave someone who we rightly pointed out, was an authoritarian, who was going to enact Project 2025. You gave that guy the power to do all this stuff. That's it. And now he's doing it. Oh, shocker, right? Oh, he said he's going to do something terrible, and he did it. When he said, of course, he said he's going to do a bunch of good things too. Yes, but he never does. See, he only does. Trump has two types of promises. He promises to do something good. Don't believe him because he's lying. If he promises to do something bad, he's telling the truth. And the only reason that he didn't do those things in the first administration, his first term, is because there were a lot of people around him who said, no, we're not going to let that happen. But now that doesn't exist anymore. And everyone in the administration is now doing everything he wants. There are no guardrails anymore. And so we have careened off the road. We are currently in the middle of driving down that mountain with no one at the wheel. And that was what you did. You built that. I mean, look, all it took for Trump was to say, oh, I'm not going to do Project 2025. Never heard of it. Oh, and, I didn't like that. I didn't like it. And, of course, these people, they fell all over themselves to vote him into office. And, of course, he's not actually lowering grocery prices. No, he's not lowering gas prices. He's not creating jobs. He's not doing anything like that. Just like we said was going to happen. We said he was going to institute Christian nationalism, and guess what? That's exactly what he's doing. Well, one of his most recent executive orders now allows people in the federal government to have religious debates at work. So now you're allowed to, if you're working in the federal government, to go up to your coworker who may be a different religion than you and be like, here's why you're wrong and you're going to hell. That's it. That's what he's doing. Again, Christian nationalist authoritarianism. That is what he's doing. And we warned you. And look, not only that, he is ignoring about a third of all court decisions that have been made against him. He's ignoring the courts. He is in control of Congress. He is taking away their authority, and he is in control of the Supreme Court. He has massively funded ICE through this, big, beautiful bill to the tune of billions of dollars. It is now more well-funded than pretty much any other agency, law enforcement agency in the government. And they're doing deportations without due process. That money's going to building concentration camps. Everything we warned you against that he was going to do. Everything we warned that he was going to do. He's doing it. That's the reality. And again, the good things that he promised, he's not really. Well, what about the no tax on tips and overtime Social Security, huh? Nothing more than a bait and switch. Let's take no tips, the no tax on tips thing, for example, right? Yes, sure, it only eliminates federal income taxes in the first $25,000 of tips earned by workers making less than $150,000 per year, or $300,000 for couples, right? Now, at the end of the day, of course, that only benefits a small number of tipped workers. The lowest third of tipped workers, for example, won't benefit because they don't even qualify, because they don't make enough to pay federal income taxes. And the ones who do benefit from this, remember, they're going to have their costs go up. For example, healthcare costs, okay, which nullifies any of the gains. And at the end of the day, all of this sunsets in 2028. Whereas the tax cuts for the rich, they never expire. Never. So permanent tax cuts for the rich, not so permanent for you. Yeah. Not only that, but you have immigration raids that are hurting farmers, driving up grocery prices. Well, the thing that he said he was going to lower. You got the inflation. All of that stuff. It's bad out there. It's bad, and it is only going to continue to get worse. ICE wants to make about 3,000 arrests a day. And how are they going to do that? Well, how are they doing that? Racial profiling. So if you're one of the Latino voters like Jorge here, who cast their vote for Donald Trump, well, I just got to say, I hope you get your papers, Andy. I hope. Because you're going to be facing a lot of questions, a lot of stops, and if you fail to answer any of their questions to their satisfaction, well, you might just end up on a one-way trip to El Salvador or Alligator Alcatraz. We warned you. We warned you. Okay. Let's move on here. We got the DOGE stuff. Once again, this is not a shocker. The so-called Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk, had claimed that it was going to be making government more efficient. It's going to save you money. The reality, of course, is that it actually spent way more money than it potentially saved and is going to cost us big time in the future as well. Now, recently, the staff report was released by the office of Senator Richard Blumenthal, who is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Homeland Security Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, or PSI. They found that in just 6 months of operation, DOGE wasted more than $21 billion. That's taxpayer money. This comes at the very same time Blumenthal said the Trump administration is cutting healthcare, nutrition assistance, and emergency services in the name of efficiency and savings via the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which itself is projected to add about $3.4 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. Now think about that. Think about how much of a scam all of this is. The big bullshit bill. Adding money to the debt in order to give rich people more tax cuts, gutting Medicaid, gutting food assistance. Total and complete scam. And then DOGE, also an expensive total scam. Let's break it down. The largest amount of waste in DOGE is their deferred resignation program. So this is all part of that effort to cut the federal government. Now, they had offered federal employees the opportunity to retire early with benefits and pay through September 30th. That program paid people not to work. That's right. Ironic, isn't it? The government ended up paying about $14.8 billion for the roughly 200,000 people who took the DRP, again, to not work. Not only that, but roughly 100,000 employees were fired from their jobs and had to receive severance pay that amounts to an additional $6.1 billion. That's not all. DOGE's funding freezes have also resulted in a massive amount of government waste. Freezes on loans for energy utility projects mean that the government had lost out on $263 million worth of interest payments and fees. Meanwhile, $110 million worth of food and medicine was left to spoil in the warehouses due to the shuttering of U.S. aid. Okay, sure. You could say, but that's temporary. In the long term, DOGE is going to save us so much money, right? No. According to Yale's Budget Lab, DOGE's firing of thousands of Internal Revenue Service workers could cost about $395 billion in lost revenue over the next 10 years, and potentially as much as $2.4 trillion if the decrease in tax enforcement leads to more tax dodging. And guess who dodges taxes the most? Rich people. Not only that, but Musk's virtual elimination of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they defunded it, which has returned about $26 billion to consumers since its creation back in 2011, will cost consumers so much more than it ever took to run the CFPB. These corporations, without that, the corporations know that it's open season on all of us now. They can screw us over and we have literally no recourse. Look, we are now living in the golden age of grift, the second Gilded Age, and it's going to be so much worse than the first one. But there's more. Oh, of course there's more. Cuts to public health research by the National Institute of Health may have also lead to significant costs in the long run. An April study by the University of Maryland found that it could cost the U.S. about 68,000 jobs and $16 billion in revenue annually. Then you have the $125 million cut from U.S. aid, which the White House had claimed resulted in no return for the American people. It's projected to result in nearly $29 billion lost each year by U.S.-based organizations. And this is just the monetary losses, by the way. That's to say nothing about the human cost. Hundreds of thousands of people have already died from preventable diseases in a matter of months across the globe, and potentially as many as 14 million people will end up dying by the end of the decade. And there it is. I mean, that is a lot of losses. Okay. And by the way, the report didn't even talk about the six-figure salaries that DOGE staffers were reportedly paid. And so you also have that. Look, all of this was nothing more than a high-tech grift and a way for Elon Musk to steal our personal data. He's enriching himself. He's on track to be the first trillionaire. And also, this supports the goal of Project 2025, which is, of course, to break government apart, to sell pieces off to private industry. It's what Republicans have always been looking to do, firing people, replacing them with, of course, their toadies, people who are going to continue to do the will of the Heritage Foundation, all of that stuff. And it's going to only get worse. Okay, buckle up. Buckle up. Look, those who fell for it, all of this, who actually believe that, oh, you don't understand, we're going to save money, we're going to make government more efficient, and guess what? We're going to get some DOGE dividend checks. I hope they at first feel real stupid. And I also hope that they feel betrayed, because that's what's going on here. Yes, you've been lied to, you've been betrayed. But more importantly from that, I hope that maybe when they realize it, if they ever do, they get around to feeling motivated to try to help fix the mess that they helped create. Because every vote for Trump helped create this mess. But not only that, I don't just want this fixed, okay? I want things better than it was before. I want the pendulum to swing back so hard that we're talking about worker co-ops, all right? And welcoming transgender immigrants into the country with open arms. That's just a couple of examples. But I'm going to be real with y'all. It's going to take years, if not decades, of extremely hard work to try to undo all the damage that has been done. Not just to make this country a better place for everyone. And look, if you're not prepared to do that, well, you better get ready. You better get prepared. Because we need everyone on deck to not only fix the mess, but to create something better from all of this. Because if we can't create something better from all of this, then we truly are cooked. Speaking of cooked, let's go to our jobs report. Cooked indeed. Yeah, you commie.
Pink-haired communist.
Even though I don't have hair. Imagine me with pink hair. All right. If we just go back, we're just putting ourselves right back to the point before Trump, and we know where that led us. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We cannot just go back. We can't just get back to normal, because there is no more going back to normal. No, we have to do something better. Anyway, let's get to the jobs report. Oh boy. The jobs report for July has come out, and it's bad. Real bad.
Oh no!
The U.S. economy added only about 73,000 jobs in July, which is far more than expected. And by the way, this is not accounting for a likely later revision, but I'll get to that. Now, according to reports, the two industries that actually added these jobs were both in healthcare and social assistance. Now, growth, of course, was dragged down by cuts to the federal workforce as a result of Trump and, of course, DOGE. Now, 12,000 federal jobs were lost in July, and federal employment is down by 84,000 since reaching a peak in January. Not only that, but as I mentioned before, we had some revisions to the jobs numbers in recent months. May's job figure was revised from 144,000 down to 19,000. Woo! That is that is a net negative of 125,000 that they revised down. Yikes. June, their job numbers were revised down from 147,000 to just 14,000. So, yeah, that's a revision of 133,000 jobs that weren't actually there. They were just imaginary jobs. Okay? Or as the previous administration, the previous Trump administration would have called them alternative jobs numbers. Ah, right. This is a combined 258,000 fewer jobs than previously reported. Ouch. Ouch. Now, Thomas Ryan, a North American economist for Capital Economics, wrote in a note to investors, quote, "There was little to celebrate in the July employment report." Yeah, no kidding. He noted that the 3-month average employment gain had now fallen to a troubling low of 35,000, which is bad. It's not pandemic bad, but it's bad. It's not good. In fact, the U.S. economy grew just 1.2% in the first 6 months of the year, down from the average of 2.5% in 2024. The economy is contracting. Job growth is stagnating. I was told that we were going to be winning. Well, let me ask you, does this look like winning? Does this look like winning? And again, we're not even talking about wage growth, which is also down, stagnating. What's causing all this? I mean, there are different factors, of course, but one of the big drivers is Trump's tariffs. The man does not know what the hell he's doing. The man is slapping tariffs on everything while we're bleeding jobs, not just government jobs, by the way, but in manufacturing. Remember the thing that Trump said he's going to bring back by using the tariffs? Yeah, no, it's not working. Look, just last month, 11,000 manufacturing jobs gone. 15,000 manufacturing jobs in June gone. 11,000 jobs gone in May. That's it. Trump's blowing up the economy. And not in the good way, but in the stupid man with dynamite way. I mean, that guy, oh yeah, no, he's going to make the economy great again, everybody. Oh no. Oh God, no. Now, experts weighed in on social media about the jobs numbers. For example, New York Times chief economics correspondent Ben Castleman, he described the downward revisions as a very significant sign of weakening and noted that healthcare and social assistance jobs accounted for nearly all of last month's gains. Quote, "If it hadn't been for that sector, employment would have fallen." Yeah. Economic analyst Joe Weisenthal called this, quote, "brutal." If you exclude these two categories, job growth has been running negative for 3 straight months. Heather Long, chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union, described the July report as a, quote, "game changer," and not in a good way. The labor market now looks a lot weaker than expected. Puts a September rate cut from the Federal Reserve back on the table. I'll get to that in a bit. Market analyst Adam Crisafulli, the founder of Vital Knowledge Media, said this: "Hard to overstate how bad this jobs report was." Daniel Hornan, a senior fellow at MIT and former deputy director of the National Economic Council, said this, quote, "A turbulent week in markets and the economy is coming to a close with inflation moving higher while economic and payroll growth are moving lower." It's a precarious position for the Fed and the economy, largely a result of the Trump administration's stagflationary tariff policies, which are set to move even higher beginning next week. Look, yes. But maybe for Trump, this is a good thing. Because maybe he'll be getting his interest rate cuts that he's wanted all along. Not because it's going to be good for the economy, but because it's going to help him to pay less on his outstanding loans. Okay, that's it. All he needed to do was to weaken the economy with his random bullshit tariffs, and there you go. He gets his rate cut. Which hasn't happened yet, but now it's on the table. Look, if you thought that Donald Trump would be good for the economy, well, I mean, I'm not sure what else I can say other than, especially since we all know he'll be blaming Biden soon for all of this. I mean, if he's not already, he probably already is. There's probably a truth out there on Truth Social, okay? Well, Joe Biden, that's a bad economy. Joe Biden losing jobs. I just don't know what else I can say to the cult members. I mean, you can't really talk to them at all. I think it should be really obvious, though, to everyone who's still actually living in the real world, that Trump and Republicans kill jobs. Okay. And yes, ICE is killing jobs as well. We couldn't expect less from a convicted felon. And here we go. Speaking of less, here we go. A new report about Jeffrey Epstein and Trump's ties reveals that the disgraced financier and PDF file had used a meeting with President Donald Trump, now president, not then, in order to help him groom one of his 14-year-old victims. The victim, known only as Jane, had testified extensively at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial and testified how she was targeted and manipulated by the British socialite to be a victim of Epstein. She had first met Maxwell and Epstein at the Interlaken Summer Arts Camp back in 1994. She had testified that, quote, Maxwell was walking with a cute little Yorkie. We asked if we could pet the dog. We started chit-chatting, petted the dog, and the rest of my classmates had to go to class. Probably about a minute later, a man came and joined her. That man was Jeffrey Epstein, who had learned and preyed upon her misfortunes. For example, she had lost her dad to cancer, which, again, I've been through something similar, which in this country can lead to absolute financial ruin. That left her in a very vulnerable state, allowing Epstein to take advantage of her. He had promised to introduce her to celebrities and help her out. And one of those celebrities was his good old buddy, Donald J. Trump. Under cross-examination, Jane testified that Epstein had subsequently introduced her to Trump in person at Mar-a-Lago in December of 1994. A 2020 civil suit that Jane would later file against the Epstein estate and its executors would later allege introducing 14-year-old Jane to Trump. Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to Jane, quote, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled, nodded in agreement. They both chuckled, and Jane had felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. Well, that, of course, was her intuition, telling her that, these people are not safe. You are not safe with either of these grown adult men. But again, she couldn't quite figure out why she was unsafe, but she eventually found out. Now, for me, that interaction, one of many, tells me that Donald Trump absolutely knew what Jeffrey Epstein was about. Oh, yeah, this is a good one, right? Good one for what? Absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. But it gets worse. Earlier this week, Trump had claimed that he split when he was asked about why he stopped inviting Epstein over to Mar-a-Lago and kicking him out. Well, apparently it's because Epstein had poached the late Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago when she was working there as a teenager. Maxwell offered Giuffre a job as Epstein's masseuse, which ended up leading to years of sex trafficking and abuse. Giuffre, unfortunately, committed suicide back in April of this year. I mean, just absolutely horrible. Now, asked on Thursday whether he knew why Epstein was poaching women from Mar-a-Lago, Trump was like, I don't know. But I said if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it. And we threw him out. We said we don't want him at the place. Oh, really? Okay. Now, that's not the only time he alluded to knowing about Epstein's fondness for young girls. Florida-based businessman had told the New York Times back in a 2019 interview that he had raised concerns about Epstein's conduct ahead of a 1992 Calendar Girl event. He said, look, Donald, I knew Jeff really well. I can't have him going after younger girls. Not only that, but longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone had written in his 2016 book about a scene in which Trump had talked about how Epstein's swimming pool was full of beautiful young girls. Oh. How nice, I thought, Trump said, according to Stone. He let the neighborhood kids use his pool. Wait a minute. He called the neighborhood kids beautiful young girls. What? Well, first of all, that's not what was going on there. No, it was, no. There were not good things going on there, and I think Trump knew. Trump knew. Look, all of this pretty much shows how that Epstein was using Mar-a-Lago in part to groom some of his victims. Again, how much Trump knew about it, I cannot definitively say, but I personally believe he knew exactly what was going on. When it came to Giuffre, for example, not only was this a case of an employee being poached, right, which is what Trump wants to classify this as, or characterize it as, right? Oh, she was an employee. She was working for me. And then Epstein, he came up and he poached my great employee. Yeah, how dare you? No. Look, at the time, she was a minor. She was not a masseuse. She was apparently poached for a specific type of job that wasn't even appropriate for her. She didn't have a license. You have to be 18 to have a massage license. She didn't have any of that. And while she was working at Mar-a-Lago, she was not giving massages. But Epstein's like, oh no, I'm going to hire you as a masseuse. Trump knew. Trump knew. And look, maybe that was the reason that he ended up kicking out Epstein, maybe to save himself. I don't know. But maybe not. Again, I just don't know. I just don't know. What I do know for certain is that Trump's name is in the Epstein files. Of course it is. Yes, he was already told. They're in the Epstein files. Look, and he had about 1,000 FBI agents go through, pour through the files, whatever client list that exists, and to take his name out. They're redacting it. And my speculation is that soon Trump may end up giving Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon. He has moved her to a different prison. She has been moved. And, you know, I think that he is probably willing to give her that pardon in order to get what he wants. He wants this entire thing to go away. And what better way to do that is to have Ghislaine Maxwell give Trump a list of all the names of his political enemies in the Epstein files. Okay? And wait a minute, what political enemies are in the Epstein files? Whichever ones Trump wants in there. Look, Ghislaine Maxwell is a documented liar. She lied during her trial. She would absolutely lie to save her own skin, to get out and to be free. So if she sees the chance for her to get out of prison 3 years into her sentence, she gonna take it 100%. And I think Donald Trump is increasingly seeing that the only way to get out of this Epstein scandal is to do that, is to have her release a doctored list without his name in it, but with all the names of the people he don't like out to the public. I don't know. Again, that's my speculation. But hear me now. Quote me later. We'll see. We'll see if my speculation is right. Okay. That's all I got for y'all today. Man, that was he's a monster, absolutely. See. Yeah, that is pretty nasty. Agreed. Ugh. All right. See. B-Man29397 with a very kind super chat says this. We have our first country to enact an arms embargo on Israel. The nation of Slovenia has just enacted an arms embargo. While small, it sets precedent. Yes. Yes, that is great. One of the stories that I considered doing today, talking about today, is how Israel is, look, they're losing a lot of support. Good. Because what they're doing in Gaza right now, they're doing a genocide, they're doing ethnic cleansing. I mean, it's unconscionable to watch this happen, to see what is going on in Gaza enacted by the far-right government of Israel. And unfortunately, you have the population of Israel that has been completely radicalized by the lies that Netanyahu is only using to escape prison, to escape his corruption allegations, and all of that. And again, he has put together this coalition, and he is holding on for dear life, and is just doing the most heinous war crimes imaginable, crimes against humanity. And it is costing Israel the world's support. And I say at this point, they don't deserve the world's support, not with what they're doing. And so, yeah, you love to see it. Okay. Anyway, you don't have the left and right in the U.S. Both are right for a long, long time. Yeah, I have talked about overall the fact that we do not have a actual viable left in this country. You don't have people talking about, workers owning the means of production. You don't have any conversation about that at all. And so that's unfortunate. And just shows you how far right the Overton window actually is not only in, this country, but also in the world. Okay, anyway. Thank you all for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please consider becoming a supporter of the channel by hitting the join button below if you're on YouTube, or becoming a patron, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. Very important. We need your help. As always, independent progressive media is, we're in a world of hurt. We're in a world of hurt. Yeah, I know, that is Marxist. Exactly.
Pink-haired communist.
And there you are. But yes, so please support this channel, support independent progressive media, the ones who are doing the good work and are trying to get out the facts and are trying to push back. Because unfortunately, you do not have enough. You don't have anybody really in mainstream media that's pushing back against this regime, not in any, strong way. And so we need more of that. And the only way we're going to continue to have that is if you help independent progressive media, because we are not funded by big corporations. We are not funded by billionaires. I do not have sugar daddy bucks coming in from George Soros. Okay. No Soros checks. And so we need your help. As always, we need your help to continue doing what we're doing. And so if you find any value in it, become a member, become a supporter today, if you can. And I will continue to try to give you the best news and commentary on current events that I can. All right. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Be back Monday. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you.